You won't believe what happened when the HOA slapped me with a $250,000 bill and threatened to foreclose on my grandfather's ranch. They had no clue their shiny headquarters was built on my land. That's right, they picked the wrong fight. For 3 months, I kept quiet, gathering evidence, until I unleashed a bombshell that left the entire HOA board stunned. If you've ever despised power-hungry bullies who love throwing their weight around, this story will have you cheering. Where are you reading this from? Drop a comment and join me as I reveal how I turned a $250,000 demand into a counterattack that left the HOA reeling. It had been 15 years since I'd spent more than a weekend at Hickory Ranch, a 150-acre slice of Colorado paradise my grandfather, Harold Morgan, had left me. I was a tech guy coding away in my Denver apartment, far from the dusty trails of my childhood summers. When the lawyer called to say Grandpa had passed and left me the ranch, his words hit hard. You were the only one who loved this land as much as he did. Driving up to the property 3 days later, I saw the wear of time, sagging barn roof, broken fences, a house begging for repairs. But standing on the porch, gazing at the rolling hills and distant mountains, I felt it. This was home in a way my city life never could be. That first day, I wandered the property, reconnecting with memories. At dusk, I sipped Grandpa's favorite whiskey on the porch and whispered a vow to the stars. "I'll protect this place, Grandpa." I promise. The next morning, I dove into sorting his belongings. My old college friend Emily Chin, now a real estate attorney, offered to help navigate the legal maze of inheriting such a large property. "This area's changed," she warned over the phone. "Oak Ridge, that fancy development, has crept right up to your eastern boundary." While rummaging through the attic, I found a hidden safe, caked in dust behind a false wall. After trying combinations tied to Grandpa's life, I cracked it. My birthday. Inside were old land deeds, maps of Hickory Ranch, and letters spanning decades. The map showed boundaries that included land I suspected was now part of Oak Ridge. That evening, Frank Wilson, a weathered neighbor and Grandpa's old friend, stopped by. Over coffee on the porch, he grumbled, "Your grandfather fought those Oak Ridge vultures as long as he could. They've been nibbling at land through legal tricks, and Harold was too sick to keep up the fight." When I showed him the maps, his eyes lit up. "Well, I'll be." Harold kept the original deeds. Clever old fox. At the bottom of the safe, I found a letter in Grandpa's shaky handwriting addressed to me. "The truth is in the papers, Alex," he wrote. "I hope you'll do what's right." A tear hit the page as I read his words. This wasn't just about land, it was a legacy. But before I could dig deeper, an envelope slid under my door. An Oak Ridge HOA notice demanding $250s in membership fees and late penalties. Claim, my ranch fell under their jurisdiction. I stared at the number, dumbfounded. Why would my family's land owe them anything? Then my phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Morgan, this is Victoria Blackwell." "Oak Ridge HOA president," a cold voice said. "We need to meet now." The Oak Ridge HOA headquarters screamed wealth, gleaming glass, polished stone reeking of arrogance. I parked my muddy pickup between two pristine SUVs, kept my flannel on, and walked in, deliberately underdressed. "Let them think I'm a pushover." Victoria, a sharp-eyed woman in her mid-50s with immaculate silver hair, sat with 4 others, including Richard Palmer, a retired lawyer with a viper's smile, and Marcus Jenkins, their jittery property manager. They sat on one side of a long table, me alone on the other, an obvious power play. "Mr. Morgan," Victoria began, skipping pleasantries, "your property has been part of Oak Ridge for 5 years, yet you've paid no fees or met our standards." She slid a folder across the table with documents showing Grandpa's signature on boundary changes and a map that didn't match the ones from the safe. The signature was a fake. I'd seen enough of Grandpa's handwriting to know. But I played dumb, fumbling papers, stuttering, "I don't understand. Grandpa never mentioned this." Victoria and Richard smirked, thinking they had me cornered. Palmer leaned in, smug. "Ignorance doesn't void agreements. You owe $250,000. If unpaid in 30 days, we'll line your property and start foreclosure." The threat landed like a punch. "We've done this with others who didn't comply," Palmer added, his smile icy. Victoria chimed in, dripping condescension. "Your ranch is dragging down our property values. Pay the fees, and we'll discuss bringing it up to code." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. For 30 minutes, I let them lecture me, asking naive questions, playing the overwhelmed hick. As I left, I snapped a photo of their HOA sign, not for keepsakes, but because their headquarters sat on my land, per Grandpa's maps. Driving away, I grinned. They wanted $250,000 for my ranch being on their land, while their building was on mine. But I needed proof, Emily called as I drove. Alex, I checked Harold's records. You won't believe this. Her find was the first piece of a puzzle we'd spend weeks assembling. Grandpa had leased the eastern section, where the HOA headquarters now stood, to a construction company 20 years ago. The lease expired 5 years back, unrenewed due to his illness. Legally, they were squatting on my land, using a forged extension agreement. Frank introduced me to Robert Taylor, a 65-year-old farmer who'd lost his land to the HOA 3 years prior. In his modest apartment, he recounted how they'd hit him, with small fees that snowballed into $100,000 he couldn't pay. They took everything, he said, voice shaking. Legal on paper, dirty as hell in reality. With Emily's help, we met Sarah Johnson, a retired county clerk with unofficial land. Records. Victoria's been playing games with boundaries for years, she said, showing us maps confirming Hickory Ranch's true borders, including the HOA's headquarters land. At the county land office, Maria Gonzalez, a sympathetic clerk, showed us the HOA's building permit, approved with the forged lease extension. Someone got paid off, she whispered. After 3 weeks, the truth was clear. Victoria and Richard were running a real estate fraud scheme, expanding Oak Ridge through forged documents, intimidation, and county connections. They'd built their headquarters on my land and were now extorting me. This isn't just about you, Emily said. They've targeted multiple owners for years. It's a land grab. But Victoria was watching. A text arrived. Mr. Morgan, stop investigating property boundaries, or you'll face bigger problems. Then a $5,000 fine for property maintenance violations was nailed to my gate. A black SUV lingered on the road watching my house. Sheriff Mike Davis brushed off my harassment report. Handle it civilly, Alex. Oak Ridge has pull with the county. No help there. Emily suggested 2 paths. Confront the HOA now or keep building our case. Waiting risks them moving faster, she warned. That $250,000 is about controlling your land before you expose them. I met Thomas Reed, a local reporter, at a coffee shop. He'd been investigating Oak Ridge but faced roadblocks. Victoria's got friends at my paper, he said. But I'm on an online platform now. If you've got evidence, I can break this story. The HOA ramped up pressure, sending inspectors to photograph my property daily, citing peeling paint and overgrown bushes. Councilwoman Janet Baker, Victoria's ally, pushed an emergency zoning review to reclassify parts of my ranch for community use. I bought time, calling Victoria in a defeated tone to request a payment plan meeting. I'm glad you're being reasonable, she purred, thinking she'd won. Then Marcus Jenkins texted, meet me at Rusty Nail Bar, 8 p.m. I have info. Don't tell anyone. Trapper opportunity. I tucked Emily's tiny microphone into my collar and headed out. The Rusty Nail was a gritty dive bar reeking of stale beer. Marcus slid into my booth, nervous and sweating. If Victoria knows I'm here, I'm done, he whispered. He'd worked for the HOA a decade, initially unaware of the fraud. I signed forged documents, he admitted, handing me a USB drive. The FBI's sniffing around HOAs. I'm not taking the fall for Victoria. He revealed a resident's recent death, a 78-year-old man, hounded by fees and threats, officially a heart attack but suspiciously timed. Marcus's USB held emails between Victoria and Richard plotting the headquarters, construction on my land with a fake lease, plus their strategy to impose fake fees and foreclose on vulnerable owners. They'd bribed county official Darrell Newen to fast-track approvals. Back at the ranch, I found another violation notice and signs someone had rifled through Grandpa's study. I'd moved key documents to Emily's office. Good thing, as Victoria was getting desperate. I shared Marcus's info with Emily and Thomas. We had enough for a class-action lawsuit. A construction crew arrived the next day, claiming HOA orders to fence my land. I showed my deeds and threatened police action. They backed off, but the foreman warned they'd return with permits. Emily organized a meeting with 7 other HOA victims, farmers, a retired teacher, a young couple, all with stories of outrageous fees or foreclosures. Diane Foster, Emily's colleague, rallied us. If we don't fight now, they'll come for us all. This is about justice. We formed the anti-HOA coalition, pooling our evidence. Frank, our tech guy, found a mismatched parcel number in the HOA's incorporation documents, proving they'd operated outside their legal bounds for years. It's a land grab disguised as neighborhood improvement, he said. Victoria tried to fracture our coalition, offering fee cuts to some and threats to others. She leaned on Councilwoman Baker to block our access to county records. Thomas's first online article about Oak Ridge is shady. Expansion sparked public buzz, though Victoria retaliated with a press conference, accusing us of defamation. We fought back with a town hall at the old firehouse, where Emily and Diane presented our evidence, maps, forgeries, timelines. An ex-military veteran in the crowd summed it up. Overseas, we'd call this an occupation. Here, it's just property management. The room roared in agreement. Our coalition planned a class action lawsuit and a formal demand that the HOA relocate their headquarters or pay me $250,000 annually to lease my land. Poetic justice. But Victoria struck first, securing an emergency hearing before Judge Henderson, her ally, to seize my ranch for HOA violations. The courtroom was packed with Oak Ridge residents eyeing my work boots with disdain. Victoria's team presented forged documents and photos of my violations, normal ranch features. Emily and Diane countered with our deeds, map overlays and the forged lease. But Henderson, clearly biased, dismissed much of our evidence. Just as he prepared to rule against me, Thomas burst in with reporters and Marcus Jenkins. County Clerk Donna Williams followed, holding original records proving the HOA's documents were fake. The courtroom erupted. Henderson, cornered by media and evidence, delayed his ruling. Victoria and Richard bickered in the hallway, their alliance crumbling. That night, we executed Plan B, a public meeting at the community center, disguised as an HOA event to ensure turnout. I presented our evidence, forged signatures, emails, the illegal headquarters. Marcus confirmed it all. Then Lisa Palmer, Richard's wife, revealed documents from his safe, exposing their 5-year plan to target my ranch. Chaos ensued. Oak Ridge residents split. Some defended Victoria, others were furious. District Attorney James Reynolds, in attendance, took notes. I propose the HOA relocate or pay $250,000 yearly rent, matching their demand. Reynolds announced a fraud investigation. The next day, Victoria called a desperate HOA meeting, playing the victim and blaming Richard and Marcus. But Richard interrupted, exposing her as the mastermind. Then Chelsea Blackwell, Victoria's daughter, dropped the final blow, presenting emails and voice memos proving her mother's calculated scheme. Reynolds arrested Victoria and Richard on the spot for fraud, forgery, embezzlement, and illegal seizure. A week later, Oak Ridge voted out the HOA board, electing honest residents. They agreed to lease my land fairly, exempting Hickory Ranch from HOA rules forever. That evening, Emily, Frank, and I toasted with lemonade on the porch. I'm restoring the ranch with the lease money, I said, and starting a Harold Morgan scholarship for agriculture students. I reread Grandpa's letter. Don't let anyone take what's yours. Alex, not for money but for honor. This land is a promise. As the sun set over Hickory Hill, I knew I'd kept that promise, not for $250,000, but because doing right by the land and legacy was worth fighting for. Keep supporting me for more vetoes and must share this veto. Thank you.